Hey, welcome back to another video. I'm Max, and today we are going to learn how to create a video in Premiere Pro from scratch, assuming that you've never used Premiere Pro in your life before. So the goal is to go over some basic tools, the basic setup of Premiere Pro, everything you need to make a video from start to finish without all the super advanced stuff. I'm assuming that this is not your full-time job and you just want to jump into Premiere Pro and get started. And after we finish up with Premiere Pro, we'll use this fun software called Handbrake to compress that video so you could potentially email it to a client or a colleague, something of that nature. Very simple, but very effective. Now you may ask, why are we using Premiere Pro and not simpler software like iMovie or some of the more free options that are out on the internet or that you may use as someone who doesn't edit videos? Now, I would suggest using Premiere Pro because it's knowledge that will last. Premiere Pro is going to be around for many years to come, and I cannot guarantee that iMovie or some of the free programs that aren't as popular will be there in 4 or 5 years. So the knowledge that you can learn today will actually last you for many years to come, and it'll be useful in the future because as the popularity of Premiere Pro grows, you'll be able to keep that knowledge and use it, in the future. No big deal. So let's get started. Once you have Premiere Pro set up and installed and you open it up, the first thing you'll see is this. As you can see here, I have a bunch of files that I've been working on the past few days for work, a bunch of different videos. But today, we want to start a brand new project because this is your first time using Premiere Pro. So what we're going to do is actually click New Project. Now this is Adobe Premiere Pro 2020, the latest software. You may be using 2019 or something similar, but they're all pretty much the same besides all the new features they add. So now when you do a new project, something like this opens up. This is the new project dialog box. Now, there's a bunch of different options on here like scratch disk and ingest settings. You can ignore those for the most part. No big deal. There's really not too much to worry about with that. And then you have like general settings. All this stuff is fine. But what you do want to do is actually create a name for your project. Let's call this new video and find a place to save this project. I already have a folder set up. I'm going to save this project in, hit select folder and click OK. Now, once that happens, Premiere Pro opens up. Now you see a couple of different windows. You can ignore these for the most part. Your Premiere Pro may look very different from mine because mine's set up the way that I like it. Now, what you're going to do first, just to kind of get along with me, we can have the same setup, is you're going to go to Window, Workspaces, and Assembly. This will kind of readjust Premiere for you to make it look kind of similar to this. Now, if yours looks different, I'll tell you why. Right now, these little boxes are all docked in a weird place. So what we can do really quickly is actually like hover over lines and make these bigger so we can see them easier. Like Lumetri color, you can see here, you can move this over, kind of space things out. So your Premiere Pro setup should look something like this. Now to give you a quick overview of what you're looking at, this right here is your project window. See project, a little things, new video. This is where you import your media. As you can see here, you can drag and drop files into here, organize your footage, right click, import media, stuff like that to bring in anything you need for your video. Right here is your program sequence. So when you build a timeline or start working on a video, it'll actually show up in your program window. So your final piece, this is where you can kind of preview it, see what you've made so far. Lumetri color is color editing stuff inside of Premiere Pro. It's really handy for post-production. Maybe it's something we won't cover today because it's not needed for basic video editing, but it's there for future use. So today we're going to close it. So we'll click these three little bars and do close panel. Right here is your source monitor. Now this is pretty simple. If you have footage inside of Premiere Pro and you want to preview it, it's previewed in the source monitor. Right here is your timeline. This is where your actual timeline of your video is created and built when you start dragging in footage and layers and stuff like that. And right here is a little toolbar with tools. So your pointer tool, your cut tool, stuff like that. Very simple, but very effective. So the first things first is we want to import some media into our project. Now, it's very simple. You could easily drag and drop footage into here or right click import and just find, the footage you want and drag it in there. What I'm going to do is drag and drop this footage into here. And the first thing that happens is it pops up like a little icon with a frame rate, media start. This is just data about the footage to let you know what it looks like. Like the video info, it's a 720p video. But as we can see, there's a little purple icon and a green icon. The green icon that looks like a little audio waveform lets us know that this video has audio, and the purple just lets us know that it's video. Now, if we double click this, we can actually preview it in our source monitor like before.
What? You fucking
So this is a casting video of all super famous celebrities who are, before they were famous and they were first casting stuff. They were funny back then too. How awesome is that? Anyways, this is where you can preview your footage. Now, what we want to do to start making this footage into a video that we can export later, we need to create a new sequence. Now, there's a couple of different ways to create new sequences. So a sequence is basically your final timeline piece, your main thing where you're going to build all your video. But what we can do is actually click on the footage, right click and do new sequence from clip, which creates a new timeline. You can see that there's our video, there's our audio channel. It's all here. It's being previewed in our program monitor, which is our final piece where everything is created. But we don't want to create a new sequence that way. So I'm going to undo that. What I want to do is actually create a sequence from scratch, just to teach you how to do it. So what we're going to do is actually click this button right here. This is the new item button. Now it opens up and it shows a lot of different stuff all at once. When you click new item, you have clearly your sequence, but there's also these other little things inside of here that you can use later on in editing. But today we're just going to create a new sequence. Another way to create a new sequence is to right click inside of your project, new item sequence. Very simple stuff like that. But once you hit create new sequence, a new dialog box pops open. Now this is where you can actually choose your preset or create a preset for sequences, which is just, like for this instance, we want an HD video. So my favorite preset for videos like these for YouTube or something that I'm going to email is the digital SLR setting. So I'll drop down on this little arrow, drop down on 1080p, and then go to DSLR 1080p 24, which means 24 frames per second. We'll call this video 1. Now, the rest of the stuff, you can actually jump in and change the resolution and stuff like that. But today, we just want to choose this preset because it's simple and what we need. Then click OK. Now we have a new sequence, just like before. As you can see this little icon right here, it's a little sequence. See that it looks like a little line and layers? This is the sequence icon. Now, if this list right here annoys you and you want to be able to see this a little easier, you can click this button right here called the icon view, which shows these as icons instead. As you can see, our video 1, there's nothing in these layers. So it's just a black video, so it's why it's black. And here's our footage that we brought in earlier. Now, once you start bringing in footage and other things like that, you may want to keep your footage organized inside of Premiere Pro. Right now, we just have 2 things, but imagine if we had 50. So this would just be a huge box filled with stuff. So what we're going to do is go back to list view, and we're going to create a new folder right here, new bin. We're going to call it footage. From here, we can actually take the footage and drag it into the footage folder. New bin, again, do sequence. Drag our video 1 sequence into sequence, and also do another one called assets. Now, assets is where you could drag in stuff, pictures, audio. You kind of get the picture. You're going to create folders to keep your project organized. And the reason we want to keep a project organized is pretend that you might be working with a colleague and giving them your project. So if you keep your project organized, it'll be very easy for them to follow along and actually navigate the project that you create. Now, if you're working on your own and you want to be really messy and unorganized, have at it. It's all up to you. It's your editing workflow. No big deal. But I do advise in the future, just keep it organized for the potential of sharing work. So from here, we can actually start bringing in footage into our sequence we created. So we'll grab our footage right here, the footage from the footage folder, and actually drag this footage into our project. But there's a there's a little box that pops up. It's a clips mismatch warning. The footage is different than the sequence settings we created. So what we'll do is just keep existing settings. Now our footage is inside of Premiere Pro. As you can see, there's a couple of errors already. There doesn't seem to be any audio. If we play it, it's quiet. And you look at the audio channels down here. This is A1, A2, A3, audio channel 1, 2, and 3. There's no layer like there was before when we created a new sequence. But there is a video layer. We can actually move it around and change the layer on like layer 3, layer 2, layer 1. But there's no audio. So how do we fix that? This is a problem you may run into in the future. So we're going to delete this out. And as you can see, A1, like V1 right here is turned on, but A1 is turned off. If we turn A1 on, it tells Premiere, yes, bring in audio. And now we have our audio back. No big deal. And just like this, if your V1 was turned off, it will not bring in the video, but only bring in the audio. Now you may ask yourself, why would you ever want this to happen? You may be editing a video and have, B-roll footage of like the sea or the ocean, but you already have audio for the ocean that sounds really nice, but the audio from your camera was terrible. So you can actually turn off the audio while you're dragging in B-roll, so it doesn't bring in the audio, it just brings in the video, which can be a really handy tool if you're trying to speed up your workflow. But today we definitely want to bring in the audio and have the video. Now, another little thing we notice is that the video is smaller than the actual HD composition. So it's a 720p video like we saw in the data earlier, and the sequence we created is 1080p. So this video is actually smaller than our entire video. And if we exported this, it would have like a black box around it. But how do we actually scale up this video and move it around on screen to fit the screen? Very simple. So Premiere Pro is really great. You can actually go to Window and open up Effect Controls. Now inside of here is all your other windows that you can open up for tools and stuff inside of Premiere Pro, but Effect Controls is probably one of your favorites and something you should stick to a lot. So open up Effect Controls, and as it just pops open like this, you can actually grab the dock and move it somewhere else to fit your editing style where you want it to be placed in Premiere Pro. Very handy, very helpful. And what we'll do is actually click on our clip. Now when we highlight our clip, little controls pop up inside of Premiere Pro where we can actually edit and change the footage. So from here, we can actually grab the motion tag. We can move it around on screen by using X and Y. Really simple. And then we have our scale. We can actually scale this video up to fit the screen. Now, it's really simple, but any footage you ever select and you add effects to it, it'll show up in Effect Controls. This is where you can change all kinds of stuff. So if we wanted to actually flip this image, we could actually go to Effects, Window, and Effects inside of Premiere. Right here, it opens up a new thing and type flip and do like a horizontal flip, which should reverse the image. He flipped on the other side. If we go to our Effect Controls, we can see that the horizontal flip has populated inside of Effect Controls while we've clicked on this footage. Turn it on and off with the Effects button right here. And it's very simple, but that's how you add effects to footage. Now from here, we actually want to shorten this video. We want to find a clip inside of this video that we want to cut out. What we'll do is actually scroll down until we find something we want to cut out. In this case, we're going to find Michael Cera, and we're going to cut out his footage from the rest of these casting videos, just to make a little casting video of Michael Cera. So what we'll do is actually hit C on our keyboard, which opens up the razor tool. I think it should be called the cut tool because we're using C as a shortcut on our keyboard, but you know, the razor tool is fine. You can also click on the razor tool over here by clicking razor tool. And what we'll do is actually click on our footage. Now that actually cut our footage. So if we highlight it and move it down, you can see that there's a gap now. We've created a cut. And before I zoomed out on this footage, I didn't tell you, but there's a bar down here that you can actually click and drag, which helps you zoom in and out on your timeline. Now we want to take the razor tool again and cut the end of Michael Cera's audition. Right here, cut that. And what we'll do is highlight this clip, delete it, and move this clip up. Now, as you can see, I've actually moved this clip to the second layer in Premiere Pro, just to show you how layers work. Premiere Pro layers stack. So if you have like a text layer, an image layer, they kind of sit on top of each other like a shelf of books or something. So whatever's on top shows, whatever's on bottom doesn't show, unless it's, you know, this clip is smaller. So if we went to Effect Controls and shrunk down this clip, you can see that there's another clip behind it because it's under it right here. And that's just the basics of layers inside of Premiere Pro. So you can see how you could stack stuff in the future to make a little collage of video for certain projects. It's really helpful. So we're going to delete the beginning of this clip too, and we want to move Michael Cera's video all the way to the beginning of our video. So there's no empty black space in the beginning, and it ends right before 2 minutes down here. Now another way to move clips closer to the front is just to click in empty space between the clip and a gap, kind of an open gap inside of Premiere Pro, right click and ripple delete, which actually kind of just squishes the footage down for you. It's a lot quicker than clicking and dragging sometimes, but I do both all the time. Next, what we want to create is the little fades on this video. So the video fades in and fades out at the end. So what we'll do is right click the beginning of the video, do apply default transition, right click the end and do apply default transition, which creates an intro fade. See how it fades in? You can do the same for the audio. So it actually fades the audio in auditorially. So it just goes, it doesn't start loud immediately, it kind of just fades the audio in, which is really handy. And from here, we actually want to add text on top of this to type his name out, type out the scene, or whatever it is that we're showing this video to. So we'll grab the text tool right here and just click onto our program window up here. And it actually creates a little text box, no different than PowerPoint or Word or whatever other software you use. And we'll type Michael, Sarah. It's spelled like that, I think. So it's not 2 R's, it's 1 R. We'll type scene 1, take 1. Now, like any other footage, like I told you before, if you click on the footage, text is no different than any other footage. You can actually use the effect controls right here to affect this text. We actually want to move it a little bit. We want to move it over here, kind of out of the way so you can see his face. We also want to change the font. So we'll highlight this footage, drop down on the text thing right here inside of your effect controls, and just change the font. I'm just going to pick something really quickly. It doesn't matter what it is. Rockwell, and that'll work. And then from here, you can change the color, the size, all that stuff, any font effector inside of Premiere. It's really easy, just like any other software. But it's all controlled inside of effect controls, just like before. And we also want the text to fade in. So we'll right-click, apply default transitions, right-click, apply default transitions. And this fades in. Michael Cera, scene 1, take 1. And then we'll scroll down to the end. Let's say this is a 30-second take. We want to cut by clicking C on our keyboard, highlighting this and deleting it, right-clicking this, apply default transitions. So it ends right here. And just like that, we have our little video edited. Now from here, your video may be too quiet or too loud, and you want to change the volume of the audio. So an easy way to change the volume is actually clicking the audio and opening up the layer like I just did by grabbing this little line and moving it, which works for any other layer, and making it big so you can see it. And there's a line right here. You can grab that line and move it up and down to change the volume. Another way to change the volume is just like anything else. Volume is just considered an effect. You can click the audio channel and actually go to volume and change the volume. So just like this, we can make it really quiet, or we can make it really loud, which I'm sorry if that busted your eardrums just now. But yeah, that's a way to change the volume, makes it really simple, and it works like that. Now, sometimes if your audio, if you've recorded in a room with a loud air conditioning or something like that, has a very subtle hiss or a loud hiss in the background. Now, there's a simple way to get rid of this. I'm not the best audio engineer in the world, but I can help out a little bit. So to get rid of an audio hiss in the background, which I don't think this video has, but we'll just I'll show you the effect just to use it. You go to your effects where you can type in flip like I did before. We can add like a horizontal flip on the video. What you want to type is de-esser. This is where you're going to find all of your different effects. De-esser. So de-esser, think of like de-esser, gets rid of the S's inside of videos. We'll drag this onto the audio and actually click effect controls to affect the de-esser, and right here, and click edit and actually choose the right preset, male voice de-esser. Now, if there's a loud hiss in the background, this should help out a lot. You can also choose different presets until it works for you or just sounds better. So if there is a loud hiss in the background, try that out. If not, hop onto the YouTubes and Google it. It'll help out, and there's a lot of great tutorials out there on how to get rid of audio hisses. But that's a little more advanced than what we're trying to accomplish today. So now you've actually created a video. It's ready to go. Your text shows up, and then it fades out. You've trimmed the ends. You've edited your audio. Just like anything else, if you wanted to add music, you would just import your music right here. You would drag it into a new layer under your audio to make a new music channel. No big deal. Then you can change the volume of the music, make it fade in, stuff like that. But now we are ready to export our video. So what we're going to do is actually go to File, Export, Media. But there's a problem. Media is grayed out. We can't actually export this video right now. And I'll tell you why. It's very simple. When you want to actually export a video, make sure you make sure that you've clicked on your actual timeline. Video 1 is now highlighted. And I can scrub in this video, and you can see everything that goes on. From here, if I go to File, Export, Media, it's no longer grayed out. Or if I actually right-click my sequence right here, I can go to Export Media. Now this will open up a new dialog box, which is our export settings. Now because this is basic Premiere Pro stuff, 95% of the settings in here you don't have to worry about. So from top to bottom, just in your format options when you're exporting a video, make sure it's set to H.264. This is just an MP4, a fancy name for MP4. That's what you've heard of that name before, I'm sure. So if it's not set to that, everything changes. What you want to do is actually set it to H.264, which switches it back to the stuff you need. Now, because we created a sequence early on, the height and width are set to where we want them, 1920 by 1080p and HD video, and all the other settings are preset because we created a sequence early on. Now, you could change all of these if you wanted to, but today they're kind of useless for us. But right here is one setting you do need to worry about, the bitrate settings. Now, we're going to use VBR 1pass because we want a small file. And the target bitrate, you could increase this file size dramatically. By increasing this, you can see that the estimated file size is jumped to 100 megabytes. But if we change it back to 10, the estimated file is 42 megabytes, which is completely okay for us. And now what we want to do is actually export this video. So we'll click this little blue link right here, which actually allows us to choose where this is going to be exported. Video 1, I'm going to save it inside of the new project folder that I created early on. And we'll hit export. From here, you don't have to worry about too much. Export audio and video is checked, so there will be audio, there will be video. Your audio settings are preset to be good, so that's not a big deal. And you can go from there and just hit export. This video is very short, so it shouldn't take very long to export. Now, if you're working on a laptop, it will take longer. I'm working on a powerful, video editing workstation, so my exports are always pretty quick, but it doesn't matter too much. Take a coffee break, come back, it should be done. Okay, our video has been exported. We can see video 1 right here. We can open it up. There it is. It's an MP4. It plays on Windows, no problem. It'll play on a Mac, no problem. If we right click and go to properties, you can see the file size of this video. It's around 41 megabytes, exactly what Premiere Pro predicted. Now, this video is too big to email. It's 41 megabytes. We want to make it small enough to be emailed to our colleagues, to our producer who's looking at this casting video. So we're going to use software called Handbrake to actually compress this video to a smaller file size. Now, if you Google Handbrake, it's free software, open source video transcoder. Just download it. It looks like a fishy site, but it's completely legit. It's totally fine. And download for Mac or Windows, whatever platform you use. And we'll open it up, and I'll give you a quick overview of how this works. So when you open up Handbrake, it's going to immediately ask you to what file are we going to be working with. So you can either just open a file right here, open folder, batch. You can open up like multiple video files all at once if you're compressing multiple videos. But today we're doing a single file. So we're just going to take video 1 and drag it into Handbrake. So now it's processing the video. Now we're looking at it. So the summary, the format is MP4. If it's not set to MP4, please set it to MP4. It'll keep it nice and compressed. If you click video right here, you can actually choose your quality settings. Constant quality 22 is totally fine for what we need. Frame rate 30, that's totally fine. And you kind of just leave the settings the way they are. There's a lot of extra settings in here, like your queue, preview, and all that stuff, but I never really worry about it. I'm typically only compressing one video, just like you, or maybe you're doing a few different casting videos, which then you can use the queue option from the beginning. And from there, we actually need to choose where to save this video. So we'll hit browse on the bottom of Handbrake right here. And actually, right now, the file name is video1-1. What we're going to call it is video1_C, which means compressed in my opinion. So _C, compressed. We know this is not our original video that we created. Click save. And then when you're ready, you just click start to encode. Now this Handbrake is a lot more advanced than this, but for what I use it for, this is all we ever really need for Handbrake. So it's encoding. Again, my computer's pretty quick, so this doesn't take very long. Yours may take longer, but our queue is finished, and we can see that video 1C has been populated inside of our project folder. Now, if we watch this video, it looks extremely similar to the first one. I don't really see any issues. Sometimes Handbrake will over-compress something and it looks crazy. But if that, you can do a couple of different tries with your original media. But if we right-click this and go to Properties, we can see that this video is now only 8.73 megabytes, which is totally small enough to be emailed. Now, if your video file is still too big, you probably want to try different export settings inside of Premiere Pro. The only thing that I would change from our original settings is unclick this box right here and change height to 720p to make a smaller video. So in HD still, but the file size will be a little smaller. And once you compress that, it'll be even smaller. Now, our video originally was 41 megabytes, and now it's only 8, which again is totally fine to email because we had a nice short video. Depending how long your video is, it will be larger, but you can mess around with the Handbrake settings to compress it. Now, if the 8.1 megabytes is still too big for you and you want to compress this even further, what you could always do is, open up a new source, grab your original source. We can actually change the constant quality setting inside of the video setting inside of Handbrake to 44, and actually change the name. Let's call this video C2. Hit save and start the encode. It'll actually compress this video dramatically more because the settings, the higher this number, the more it's compressed. Now this video may not look very good anymore. It's just been over compressed. Yeah, you see all these little artifacts, these little squares all over this video. That's just a video that's been ultra compressed, which may not be good for what you need. You may be limited to 15 megabytes. So kind of mess around with this setting until it's perfect for you. But if we look at the file size really quick of this video, it's only 1.44 megabytes now, which is dramatically smaller. So we had a 40 megabyte, an 8 megabyte, and a 1 megabyte. But you can see the quality difference. The 40 and the 8 megabyte are extremely similar, and only a pro is going to notice a difference. But pretty much everybody can see that this quality is dramatically reduced. It looks a little better here, but you can see Seth Rogen's hair comes in here, and it looks really compressed, which is probably something you don't want. But yeah, that's how you compress videos inside of Handbrake. It's really simple, but really useful for emailing videos around. But hey, that's an overview of Premiere Pro and how to get started. Hopefully I covered a lot of the beginner topics that'll help you get started, make stuff. There's a ton of complicated stuff inside of Premiere Pro, but it's nothing you might never not need. You just need to edit quick casting videos or something simple for your family, and it works like that. Like I said before, Premiere Pro is long-lasting knowledge. You'll keep that knowledge, and 3 or 4 years from now, they'll be updating Premiere Pro, and it'll be very similar to what you learned today, and you'll still be able to use the software. I can't guarantee that all these offline editors or free editors like iMovie will actually be around in a few years. So that's why I don't have too much of an interest in learning that software. I want something that I can keep for a long time. But as always, guys, I'm Max. Thank you for watching this video. If you caught the class live, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching today, stick around. I make a lot of videos like this, and feel free to reach out and contact me for more. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.